You have reached the Geek Elite. Good luck.
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch.
What up, Mitch?
Orderly Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
AJ.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey Mitch.
What up, Mitch? Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch.
What up, Mitch?
Hey, Mitch.
Hey Mitch. Hey Mitch. Hey Mitch. Hey Mitch.
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch.
Hey Mitch.
Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch.
Tonight on Hey Mitch, I have comic book creator Scott Wilson. The comic book in question is The Flock. It is now on Kickstarter, and it is a very, very cool looking comic book. I'm so glad that you came on. Thank you, Scott, for coming on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate inviting me on and being on the show. I love to talk about this. This is one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, so I'm really excited to talk about it.
I mean, one of the things that says right there on your Kickstarter is that it's a Golden Age inspired comic book in the modern age. Now, why go with the Golden Age?
Because the storytelling wasn't taken seriously back then. It was just the part that I love the most about like that era of comics is everyone didn't have a cap on what they could do. Everything was just, whatever you wanted it to be. And characters can be whatever you want it to be. Like creating the Superman character is just like an idea, is like a guy that can do anything. So it's like there's no, prevention of you able to do, writing, storytelling. And I just love that idea of being able to tell a story without having to either get political or get, any type of outside factors to get influence your comic. I just want to tell a story that's fun, adventurous, and that's where I get from Golden Age. Today's comics is not my cup of tea, but it's everyone's version. Everyone likes what they like, but I just like the Golden Age because it was just a unique era, and plus, a lot of the comics from back then is just they don't make them like that anymore.
What were some of your favorite Golden Age stories or characters?
Well, I really like Detective Comics a lot. I have a lot of I read them online because I can't really get much of them in hand, but there's that, and then a lot of the DC products I liked a lot. Let's see, Wonder Woman was pretty cool. I like Superman, Batman, kind of like the main ones. But I also liked The Spirit. That was one of my big influences on the comic itself, by Will Eisner, a fantastic artist, and he has a really good. I love his storytelling. So those are probably like my top.
Yeah, one of our podcasters here, Chris Franey, he is a huge fan of the Spirit and Will Eisner. So I'm sure that he is super excited about The Flock. If you're naming that as one of your influencers in that.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, obviously, from the first issue, which is available if you go through your Kickstarter to read on the website. I did notice that we aren't talking about a larger than life godlike character like Superman from back in the Golden Age, but more of a Batman or Blue Beetle kind of character, right?
Yeah, definitely. And the character, when I created the story and got everything rolling, I was looking at it of course, the book is all ages, and I was trying to convey it that it was all ages. You get the first glimpse in the first issue that it's definitely for all ages. There's a maple syrup heist in the first issue. It's, come on, how much more all ages can you be? But I wanted it. Someone told me it has a Batman 66 feel, and I didn't realize that going in, but that is definitely the tone that I'm trying to go into and how I want to storytell, because it's very fun and it's just like lighthearted, and It's there's some moments that are taken seriously, but it's just a fun read. I don't want it to be mind blowing like some of these other writers these days, So
Well, tell me about the characters in the flock. Why the flock? Why birds?
well, so a lot of people don't realize, but the company I work for, publishing company, is called SP Comics, and SP stand for my brother Sean and my brother's best friend and my best friend Paul. They made a comic called Canada Bear that takes place in the 90s. And the short version of that is basically it's a grizzly bear superhero. And he has a cape and he runs around and helps the city.
I love that.
Very goofy. It's super goofy. It's like a 90s cartoon, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles feel to it. So I helped them at conventions, and I got to the point where I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to make my own story, my own book. And in about 2019, I decided to just do my own thing. So I set the flock back in the 50s, same city, same universe as Canada Bear, but it's kind of like a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I have such a gap because Canada Bear takes place in the 90s. I'm in the 50s. I can't cross over anything. Can't ruin any canon issues or anything like that. So I'm pretty happy with where it is. And when I created the characters and why I picked Canada, that's the main reason why. And then I went with Gooseman. The main reason I went with Gooseman is because they've done everything. They've done every type of superhero since Batman. I was like, I don't want to be doorknob, man. I just want to be something interesting. And then it hit me because I was at this park. I was writing down ideas, and this huge flock of geese just came storming at me. And I was freaking out because I was like, I was going to get attacked, but I guess I was near their nest or something. And I'm like, all right, I'll just do it. I'll just call it the Gooseman, and then I'll go from there.
I mean, that is a very Batman-like origin right there.
Yeah, it's got to be. And plus, I was thinking of Canadian themes, just because it takes place in Canada. I didn't want to copy and stuff, so when I created it, I did Gooseman. And Gooseman sounds cool because you can now the other character I have is called the Gosling, which is kind of like his ward, the main character's nephew. So it's it fits. It's a duo. It fits the Gooseman and the Gosling. It just fits.
I mean, it works. It works well.
Yeah, it's simple. I want it to be simple, because everyone can read it. My target audience is all ages, and the main reason I created it in the first place is because I wanted a story that my nephew could read, and he can read it, and he's been reading it at the same time that I'm creating it. So it's fun time.
And then with Canada Bear being set in the 90s, you can totally have him be like, hey, my influence was Gooseman. You get that advantage if you wanted to, since it's in the same canon. How long have you been writing comic books?
Well, I've been writing short doodles, short ideas. I have a notebook that I lost when I was moving, but hopefully I can find it in one of these boxes. It was a funny story is I moved right at the second day of my Kickstarter. I will never do that again. Bad timing. But I just wrote different stories, different ideas, either just sentences of ideas, and just have a list. 2019 is when I started taking it seriously, and then when I created the flock, characters and developed the story, and then started contacting artists. I want to say at least since 2019 is when I took it real seriously. 2018 it was just sketches and stuff and ideas, but I always wanted to make a comic. I just never had the time because I was always busy with work. And then I decided, I'm going to make time, and then just, set time aside and started doing it. And it was probably the best decision I made because I like creating stories. I like, making weird things I don't know. I'm just really good at brainstorming. That's for sure. I have like this notebook. It's like there's so many different ideas in it. It's just insane.
So, what was that process like in contacting and finding an artist?
Ooh, so I went through 3 artists till I got Gino. Gino Casmianto is the artist I have now. I went through an artist that started on the project. The way I got people was to work on it is I reached out through Facebook groups, Twitter, till I finally got someone that wanted to work on it. And then they worked on it for about a week, and then they went MIA. Then I got a second person before Gino, and that person worked on it for probably 6 months. Just nothing officially completed, just like coming up. He has a script, but he's just coming up with ideas and drawing characters and whatnot. And then he ended up getting a contract with another project that was paying him a lot more money than I was. So I was like, no, it's indie. You do what you got to do. You got to survive. You got to put money on the food on the table or whatever. So there was no problem there. And then I got Gino, and Gino turned out to be a fantastic artist. He's the one that's done all the books up to this point, and he's really great to work with. He's from Indonesia, so big time difference. So we have to like really coordinate when we message each other. But yeah, I am very happy with Gino. The thing is, though, how I got Gino was through the Facebook groups, but it was people that reached out to me. Like a person referenced him, and that went from there, and it goes on. Like that's how his like whole art portfolio was created, basically on word of mouth. Like after he finished this project, this person recommended it to someone else, and then it went all the way up to me. So it's really cool. He had a great long history doing books in the indie scene. So.
Were you looking for a certain type of artist since you're doing a action adventure crime fighting comic book?
Yes. So when I spoke with Gino the first time, I told him I wanted to do like I said, Golden Age, Silver Age type of feel of the book, and he was kind of really happy because he was tired of drawing a manga style. He wanted to start doing more Western comic feel. And what he uses for references is old pages from, the 60s and 70s. And he uses that for when he creates like poses and everything. And he wanted to get into Western comics in that type of, pages instead of like the manga style. So I was really excited to give him that opportunity because he just blew it away. Like the quickest person to turn around a page. It was very fast.
Did you like just give him a page of your writing and say, here, let me see what you see in this? Or did you give a lot of description of what the characters look like and what everything looked like, panels and stuff like that?
I think when we first started, it was more or less, I had say I had like the first 6 pages, and those were all written and scripted and ready to go. And then I had a kind of like a side column on the script that had each character, when they get introduced into the book, what they look like, kind of like how did I describe like what they were wearing. Also kind of letting him know it's 1950s, so there's no technology like today. There's no cell phones. The phones look like this, radios look like this, cars and everything. And he was able to get references pretty quick. I just had to tell him what era, and he was very professional. So, but yeah, he was able to get those out, and I loved it right away. Maybe some tweaks here and there on the character designs, but didn't take very long. Gino's a very good artist.
So when you're creating the characters, and especially a superhero costume, how did you come down on your decision on how your costume superhero is going to look?
So my colorist, I mentioned earlier, Paul, he's my colorist for the Flock, but he's one of the creators of Canada Bear. And he kind of like helped me with the design because I didn't want it to look like a Batman or a privateer, a Rocketeer. I mean, because both of those are very influenced on the actual book itself. And so we kind of like the middle ground because we got the jetpack, we got the goggles, and then the utility belt, and then we just kind of grabbed a little bit from everyone. And I just wanted it to be a basic suit. I didn't want it to be extravagant. I didn't want it to be, out of the ordinary. I just wanted to look like a guy who's got just, a jetpack and going around fighting crime. I didn't want it to look like he had all this technology and weapons of different stuff on his utility belt. I wanted it to be super simple to make it look like a guy just going around saving a city.
So in your first issue, you have Gooseman, Goslin, and a third crime fighter that comes in to help that's a part of the flock. Describe that character and how you came up with him.
So he was like one of my favorite characters to create because I just wanted a muscular guy named Jackie Oakes who just burly, lumberjack, tough guy to be kind of Gooseman's muscle, kind of like if he's in a bind, he's going to call up his buddy to help him out. And that character was actually inspired from the show Letterkenny. And I don't know if anyone's ever watched it. I highly recommend it. It's on, I believe it's on Hulu.
It is on Hulu now.
Yeah. But yeah, that character, that show inspired him. And he's a distant relative of Paul Bunyan. So I play on that as his character backstory. And he's just funny because he just doesn't care. He goes in and fights with the Gooseman, but he doesn't put a suit on because he's the toughest guy in town. No one's gonna beat him up. What's gonna stop it? It's like he's the toughest guy in town. So, but that's his mentality. Yeah, I love their creating him because he's the one character that doesn't have any persona. It's just Jackie Oakes. Like Oakes lumber. That's it.
So when you are in your process, do you sit down and write out an outline and your character descriptions before you write the story? Or do you write the story and then fill in the character stuff as you go?
I have the characters in mind before I write the story. I like an outline of how I'll do it is I'll have each character after they've been created. Then I'll have a mini outline for each character on what I want their character development and what I want them to happen throughout the series. Different goals I have for each character. If I can fit it into each book, or I might, tweak some things here and there based on the story that I'm creating. But yeah, I usually have that before I create the actual story. And then that makes it so much easier when I'm how I'm approaching the character instead of trying to figure out, okay, well, what would Jackie do in this situation? Okay, well, I have these different ideas of what I want him to do. I'll just form it to the story and see what happens. But yeah, that's my version of character creation. I like having the outline of the characters before I make the actual story.
Cool. I think that's the way I do it too. Have you found yourself writing in? Have you found that you've written yourself into any corners yet?
Well, I do have. The only thing I'm having trouble with, writing wise, is right now I have 3 books that are on the Kickstarter. Fourth book is inked and complete. And then the last, I'm doing it 3 books at a time. And the hole I'm getting into is after 6, 5 and 6 is going to be a 2-parter, but I'm trying to figure out what to do after that because a lot of the things that up to this point is just, different characters that are being introduced. I had to figure out what kind of direction I want it to go. Do I want it to be more broad with a bunch of characters, or do I want to just keep it to the same, how the Gooseman, his villains, and the same 3 people, or create a huge universe, get a bunch of different characters, bring them into the flock series. I think that's the part where I have to make the decision on. I know what I want to do, but I just want to make sure it's right choice. Just because I do want it to be, I would love it to be like a huge, like a lot of characters and a lot of different, ideas coming in to the series, but I want it to be like a simple path. I don't want it to be too out of, crazy.
That's fair. I understand that. I mean,
I don't want to overwhelm my mind.
well, I mean, in the Kickstarter, it says that you have plans for spin-off books and sequels and stuff like that. So obviously, the world is very sprawling that you're trying to create here. Like, how much of that is down on paper somewhere already, or is it all just still living in your head?
It's some of it's on paper. If I find that notebook. But a lot of it's in my head. I know the direction I want to do on different like outlines. I have probably I want to say at least 100 outline ideas for the next 2 books after 4 that I want to do. But it's all like I'm changing because I'm like, okay, this looks like it'd be a much cooler event to happen later, because if I have it now, it's too soon type of deal. Like, that's what's going through my head. I don't want to do too much too soon. I want it to, expand it, like how manga or anime does it, where they have filler episodes. Like, I don't want to have it all at once, because it's like, what? That's it.
How difficult is that when you're writing something that's serialized like that, to come to an end for this issue and be like, this is where this story has to end, or the story has to pause at this point?
Well, I think I always try to get the ending done first, and then I work my way backwards, because I think it gets harder and harder, especially if you don't have your ending done first and you don't work backwards in some way, you're just going to keep going and going and going. Then you're going to, at the end of the day, you're going to have to, okay, I'm going to have to delete this. This is 24 pages is the book size, and this is 35. I got to cut it down a bit on the panels, or I'm going to start looking like Alan Moore and have 9 panels on the page, So I always try to do the ending first. Makes it a lot easier, in my personal opinion.
So how long have you been enjoying comic books in general?
Since I first read comic book in 2003. It was a Spider-Man. Which one is it? It was a Spider-Man comic and a Superboy comic, and they were just ones that my brother got at a store, and he just threw them, and he's like, I don't really care about these, and I just read them, and it was fantastic, and then I went from there. I think once I started read, that's when I first read comics. When I first got really into comics was probably when I started reading Batman and older works from early 2000s and then 90s, Nightfall and all those. Probably when I really got into the comics.
See, Nightfall is the introduction of my favorite character, Azrael. Like, I know no one likes Azrael, but
did you like that? I forget what they did. Didn't they do like a timeline thing recently? I haven't bought Batman comic in a long time, where they go back in that time era where Azrael is still alive.
I know that in Detective Comics, and it's been a while since I've bought some Batman comics as well, but in Detective Comics, they brought him in as a young character again and made him part of the group. So after Rebirth, he essentially came back to life.
Oh, because I remember, I don't know what it was, but I read this I think it was a year ago, where they brought back his character, but they were going back in that timeline if he won, I guess.
That was in
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's in their what's their dark multiverse storyline.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, I read that and I was just like, wow. that totally fits. Like, you could totally read that, and if you love that character, it was really cool.
Yeah, that was a good one. I mean, do you have a character like that is maybe not the norm for most people? That's your favorite stick out?
Well,
I mean, the
don't know.
Spirit
It's
is already one that
I would
most
say
people don't know.
Spirit-
Yeah.
I would say Spirit is definitely, just because, yeah, it has to be the Spirit. Everything else I like, everyone knows. Like, come on, everyone knows Batman, Aquaman, Wolverine. Like, I would say Spirit, definitely Spirit.
That's fair. So, how did it feel creating your comic book? I know that you said you've done doodles before and stuff like that, but like this was putting pen to paper, and you knew that you were going to start up a project that you were going to try and make into a thing. Like, as a longtime comic book fan, how did that feel?
It felt, honestly, the most chilling part was when you open up the box from the printing and you actually have the book in your hand, because I first started out, before I did Kickstarter or any crowdfunding, I was selling in local comic book shops in the Cleveland, Ohio area from where I'm from. And getting that book and holding it in your hand is like the best feeling, because it's like, I made this. My name is on the cover, So it's very exciting. That's probably like my favorite moment, I think, when I first got issue 1 printed, was like, it's mine. It's best feeling ever. Anyone who's getting into comics, after you work so hard, you're working nights, you're eating ramen noodles to survive, because you're trying to pay your artists and get things rolling, and then you get your colors on board, and then anyone who's creating comics, it's the best feeling when you get your book, like the official book from print. It is. I don't think your first book, I should say. After you do a couple, that kind of tampers down a little bit, but that excitement of getting that first book is nothing. I can't compare it to anything. It is fantastic.
I mean, so obviously right now, conventions aren't a thing. We are in the middle of a pandemic, but once they are safe to go to again, do you plan on taking your project there, your baby, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. And we have the publishing that I go through SPE Comics. We have 2 titles. We're working on other titles at the moment. Me and my brother write so differently. He writes a lot of sci-fi. I write a lot of hero and action and fun and adventure. So we have a bunch of different ideas what we want to do. But yeah, if we could do tables or going to conventions or even going to comic book shops and doing signings, that would be like a thing I would love for it to come back, especially local, or even if we had to travel. We live in Ohio, so if we had to travel, probably be the neighboring states. But yeah, I can't wait for conventions to come back. Those are so fun. Just meeting different people and talking with people and getting them to buy your book. Of course, you got to become that salesman.
Yep, got to put yourself over.
Definitely, and saying the same thing over and over, and telling the story of the characters, because every person, you got to pitch it to them like you're pitching it to, like, on a show or on online stream. So yeah, I would love to do that again. That was just fun. We did Wizard World. I think it was 2017 in Cleveland, and that was just a fun convention. We saw a lot of really cool people. There was a lot of cosplaying at that convention. That's been like a whole takeover of those conventions, is the cosplay tournaments and stuff like that. So, or competitions, I should say. So,
Did you take it? No, it's okay. Did you take that into account when you were creating your characters of someone cosplaying your character and how that would look?
Yeah. It looks very simple. Someone can cosplay as Jack Yokes pretty easily.
Yeah.
Just go right in, go into any any like workout store or workout place, and you see guys with like or lumber mill, whatever you want to go, find a guy pretty quick. And then Gosling's whole suit is made out of materials from the character Edward's bedroom. So it's like his cape is his pillowcase. So it's like, really simple materials. And then the only thing I think would be pretty cool is seeing someone with a jetpack. That would be pretty sick. And the goggles. The goggles are pretty sick too. And that would just be... I didn't really have that in mind when people cosplay, but I know people are probably going to do it. So this is such a simple suit. So
I can't wait for that to happen for you. When you were getting started, did you do advanced research, or did you go talk to anybody that had already been through this process? How much of that did you do, if any?
I did. What I did is I researched based on, I was viewing what other products were doing, seeing what was selling, what was going well on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever campaigns were going at the time, the comics as a whole at the moment in mainstream, and I wanted to be very different from mainstream, wanted to do my own thing, indie, so that I wanted the story to be, not, higher power telling me what to do type of deal. And then after I had the book in stores, someone kind of convinced me, hey, you should start trying to look into doing like a Kickstarter to get in color. And then that's kind of when I started doing a little bit more deep dive. I really spoke to different creators. This would be Nicholas Mueller he did Demon Hunter Raven, Tyler Carpenter from Draw and Talk, and then Larry Higgins from Niobe Origins. So it's like kind of got some feedback from all of them. Also, Tyler does the Draw and Talk videos. It tells you how to make a comic book. Very great tools for everyone who wants to start making a comic. To even just Google it or type in YouTube how to make a comic. Very simple tools to use. Use your internet tools that you can hand and find out the information. It's very quick. It's not very hard.
What was the best piece of advice you feel you got?
If just keep going, push forward, even if you're gonna have a lot of setbacks, especially in indie scene, you're gonna have a lot of setbacks. My biggest problem I had was trying to get the artist. And before I got Gino, I had a lot of setbacks. A lot of artists going MIA. I was trying to reach out to them for a month, so I was not doing anything for a month. Then I got another artist, and they worked on it for a couple months, and then they never really finished anything, and they never really did anything, and they left for a contract or something. So pushing forward, and if you believe in your project, just keep going. That was probably the best advice. I got that from a panel, the Image Comics panel, their 20-year anniversary. It was 2011, I believe, and it was on their YouTube channel. And I watched that, and I think it was Todd McFarlane was basically the one's just keep doing it. The drive is what you need. You're going to get it done eventually. Just don't think small little hiccups are going to stop you. If you really want it, just keep going. And that really resonated with me, especially in the beginning parts of creation. That was just such a hiccup on my end.
So you're already being a part of SB Comics in a way. Were there any surprises that came up while doing this, while creating the flock and creating the Kickstarter?
Well, the only biggest surprises was it wasn't as hard as people think it could be. It wasn't really that hard, as in, a lot of people think, oh my God, there's so much to do. If you have yourself organized and you have your artists lined up and you have everything ready to go, it's not that hard. Like it can be for some, but if you have experience working on a team and keeping everything organized, it shouldn't have any hiccups or any problems. I think the only problem I faced on the printing was the second prints of the issue 2 were cut off on one of the last 3 pages, but I don't understand how they were because they were perfect on the proofs, and then I had but the problem was they were already printed, and so now I have it's a slight error on the printing, but that's the first print of issue 2, so it's kind of rare it won't happen again. But yeah.
Okay. So what is that process like in getting the printing done? Like how did you go about getting that?
So I reached out to 2 places. Mixum is the actual company that I went through for printing. They have a good system where you can actually see the proofs online and have it all ready to go before, and they're able to talk with you. And then the other one, I did Comics Well Springs. We have Canada Bears printed through them. I went through and did some research, and I found that for what I'm selling the comic from the Flock, Mixum was a better deal, so I just went with them. Just really research. Don't just like pick one place. Like what's a lot of businesses do this, where like say they need to repair something, they get 3 quotes, minimum of 3 quotes. Do that. Go to 3 places and see what the best deal is, but also what the best quality is. You don't want to be too low and you don't want to be too high. You want to be right where your budget is. So I always recommend finding more than one place. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself to being crap. Now I got to charge, $10 or not $10, like $15 for my comic because I spent way too much on the printing. And that's where an indie, you want people to buy your comic. You don't want to be too high in price.
Right.
Especially because you're indie.
Yeah.
You want your book to be read by more than one person.
When you're sitting down to write, what do you need from the room, from your surroundings? Do you need white noise on? Do you need it to be completely silent? Do you need candles burning?
Candles burning. No candles. I need my headphones to be completely charged, and I just listen to Hans Zimmer soundtracks, and then I'm in the zone, and then I just go. I can't be distracted, so I usually do it in my desk, and yeah, I have no white noise. It's just blasting Interstellar, Dark Knight, Inception, like all the classic Hans Zimmer movie soundtracks blasting in my head like I'm in the actual movie theater. But yeah, that's probably how I focus. And a cup of coffee. If I'm writing at night, I'll still drink a cup of coffee. I'm weird. I'll drink a cup of coffee and go right to sleep. Doesn't faze me.
So Hans Zimmer soundtracks, does that mean you're a big movie person as well?
Yeah, I love his. I'm really big into orchestra music in general, and I think a lot of his pieces that he creates for these movies is just spectacular. Like the sound is just incredible. Favorite soundtrack from him is Interstellar, just because the use of a piano organ from a church is just like, why would people use that for a space sci-fi movie? It's just like incredible. Like that's such creative thinking. But yeah, he's one of my faves.
When you were creating your characters, did you have any particular stars in mind? Like if you were ever to get it adapted?
Well, the main character, when I was trying to get references for Gino, for Huck Bennett, the main character of the Flock, I used characters from Letterkenny, and the Wayne from Letterkenny is played by the actor Jared Kiso, and I kind of use that as the reference for Huck, and going from there, and then I think he's the only one for the kid. It could be any kid that's like 13, I guess. It's probably gonna be like a 20-year-old playing a 13-year-old, but yeah, I don't know. I'll have to really look into that, especially now because I'm creating new characters and adding to this the flock per se in later series. So I had to really figure that out, because that probably helps the best when you're creating characters. Find out who would play them in a movie or voice them. I think the voicing too, even if it like became like a cartoon or like an animated movie or something, having that voice is another thing too. Like that animated series, Batman voice is so iconic. Everyone knows that voice as Batman.
When I'm reading a Batman comic, I hear Kevin Conroy's voice in my head. It's exactly what it is. Is that who you hear? Do you hear Kevin Conroy when
definitely.
Gooseman is talking?
No, not when Gooseman. When Batman's talking.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so when you're not creating and you have a free moment, in which we all know it's probably not a lot, what is it that you love to geek out about? What's your thing?
My thing is baking. I love to make bread. I don't know why. I really got into it last year with the pandemic. I started making bread at home, and it just turned into like a weekly thing. Wednesdays is my get up early and start making bread. And then I have sandwich bread for the week. I just love doing it. It's fun. It's different. It's not like what I do on the norm, so it's really out of my comfort zone. And I've had a lot of loaves that come out looking like crap, but it's a learning experience for sure.
So is that all self-taught? Is it video tutorials? Is it a cookbook?
It's all cookbooks, yes, but it's all video tutorial on YouTube. There's this guy on there. He was a professional bakery professional chef, or whatever, from North England, and his voice sounds like Winnie the Pooh, and his name is John Kirkwood, but his voice is just, it sounds like Winnie the Pooh is teaching how to make bread, and it's such like, I can't stop watching it. I watched all his baking videos just because I couldn't stop watching it. I highly recommend it to anyone who's trying to make bread, because he's got great tips. I probably have watched his videos thousands of times, and his recipes are really simple too. Like barely any ingredients. Like, yeah, this is all you need. You don't need all that extra crap.
So what is the easiest thing that you've baked so far?
Probably in my artisan bread. It's super simple. It's basically a no-knead bread. A lot of people have recipes out there for them. It just takes either bread flour or all-purpose flour and yeast and water, and you're basically done. You can salt in there if you wanted, but it's super easy. It's just mixing it together, letting it sit, and then do a couple turns, let it sit, and then throw it in the oven. You're done. So, it's probably the easiest thing anyone can do at home. It's not that hard to make if you really want to make bread, and you want to do it at home, and you're in a pinch and you need bread or something, like I was last year. And it's so crispy, so it's super super nice. So
is that also your favorite thing to make, or have you made something that is your favorite thing?
I think when I attempted to make a beef Wellington once, that was probably the insane experience, because it was like a 4-hour thing of trying to make this beef Wellington that I watched a video from Gordon Ramsay online. So it's like trying to figure out how to do this. That was probably and it came out great, but it was like, I probably could have done it so much better. But yeah, that was probably the most insane, curation I've done in the kitchen was a beef Wellington, and that's just, I'll do it again, but it was expensive.
Do you have your next thing that you're going to attempt or try?
I think for right now, I just want to keep it basic. I just want to make, a loaf. I make usually a loaf a week, or I try to do a loaf every couple of weeks. But I think once it starts to get warmer out, because right now it's still relatively cold here. So I'll probably start to experiment a little bit more, because my kitchen itself is pretty cold, and trying to get it to be warm without like ruining the bread when you're creating it, it's really hard to do. I can't keep it at a level temperature because the heat at this place goes up and down, up and down, up and down. So, but yeah, during the summertime, I'm going to do some crazy things. Definitely crazy things. Things I've never done before. So I don't know yet, but I will.
Will you be incorporating that into the comic book in some way? Does Gooseman also bake?
That's the thing. I think I might have Hug do. Well, he lives above a diner, so maybe he becomes a baker. You never know.
I mean, geese and bread, it goes together.
Definitely.
What's the piece of advice that you would give someone that's also trying to go in this direction with creating a comic book? If it's different than the piece of advice that you got, it can be. It doesn't have to be.
Well, I would say the advice of, like I said earlier, the advice I got was like the drive, just keep going forward. Don't give up. The main advice would just don't center yourself or compare yourself to others. Don't try to think, this person's barely doing anything. They're everyone gets their goal a different way. Everyone has a different path. Don't try to compare yourself. Is probably the best advice I would give someone right now. Just keep pushing forward. If you believe in yourself, you'll be all right. Don't try to compare to other people's what way they get to the end goal. So just keep going forward.
And how much have you felt social media has helped you with promoting the comic?
Incredibly different. Like I previously did an Indiegogo last year without any marketing experience, and then it didn't go very well. So I was told to do Kickstarter, so I kind of did like a marketing road to the Kickstarter in February, starting from November. And I think it was Nicholas Mueller that he keeps telling me to be more aggressive on Twitter and Facebook and all the social media, Instagram and everything. It's very hard when you have a day job to post all the time. Mm-hmm. That's probably like the hardest part in indie, because everyone has a day job. If you don't have a day job and you're in indie comics, then you are lucky.
Yeah, no kidding.
Especially. But I would say, Twitter and Facebook, there's so many groups on Facebook. Twitter, you can reach a lot of people. Especially one retweet from someone can help any campaign, any person creating comics, especially someone who's in mainstream or works with a lot of people in indie comics as well. But yeah, Twitter is a great tool to have, and it's free. Talk about free marketing. Come on, posting it on the Facebook groups takes like copy and paste, same message. If you want to do the same message all the time or change it up every once in a while, it's super easy to do. You can't pass up free marketing.
If you had the opportunity, and it could be anybody, who's someone you'd love to collaborate with in the comic book world?
I think just because I've been working with him, not like books wise, but just talking with him, Nicholas Mueller, mainly because he's giving me so much advice, but the more I get to know him, the more I want to work with him, type of deal. And we both have the same philosophy on life, both like the same stuff, and I just would love to work with him on something in the future. If it's something that not related to both of what we're working on currently, maybe our own thing, I would love to do that. Do something with him, because we probably come up with something really interesting for sure.
All right, it's come to that point in the comic or in the podcast where I ask you, if you could have one completely useless superpower, what would that useless superpower be? And it has to be useless. Like the one I like to give out an example is that at an instant, I can grow my hair exactly 1 inch and only 1 inch.
The ability to create yeast, but the yeast doesn't work. Just because I'm a baker, so
It's like I have all this yeast, but none of it's good.
yeah, I can't use it.
I love that. That's great. That's perfect. Okay, where can people find the flock and on the Kickstarter and on social media, and also you, if you'd like to give out your social media?
Yeah, so if you are on Facebook and Twitter, if Facebook page and the Twitter handles are exactly the same, it's at the Flock Comic, and you can message me on either or on the Facebook or Twitter. I'll respond relatively quickly. It all goes to my phone, especially if anyone has questions based on fulfillment or shipping and Gemini mailers. It's all on the campaign. Feel free to reach out to me if any questions for shipping. You can get the Kickstarter if you search in the Kickstarter and search in the Flock, hashtag 1 through 3. It'll be like the first thing that pops up. Pretty quick to find. I think we're at 27 backers, and we have 17 days to go, and we're at we're at 835. My goal is 2,000. So we're almost halfway there. And yeah, if you want to check it out, I really appreciate it. We have a lot of cool perks on the campaign, and a lot of stuff is still available. So really hope to get some people to check it out and see if they would like to become a backer.
Yes, everybody go and check it out. We have a goal of $2,000. We can make it. You can make it.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on the show and talking about your project and also your process. Like that's the thing that I find the most fascinating, how everybody creates. So thank you.
I seem to be, I ramble a lot, but I think that might be because I've been up since like 6 today. So
you have had a very long day. So I very much appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh yeah.
If you want to get a hold of me, my Twitter is at Mitchipedia, GEM. GEM stands for Geek Elite Media. The rest of Geek Elite Media is at Geek Elite Media on Twitter, at Geek Elite Media on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Geek Elite Media is our Facebook page. Check out archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts on our website, geekelitemedia.com. Whatever podcatcher you use, please rate and review us. It helps spread the word of our network. Can I please get you to sign out with me? All you have to do is say geek out after I say always remember to.
Yes.
Okay. But until next time, this is Hey Mitch on the Geek Elite Media Network saying always remember to geek out.
This concludes our broadcast.